You are a human baby. You cannot walk, you cannot talk, you cannot feed yourself, you cannot regulate your own body temperature. You have no idea what a predator is, but predators absolutely know exactly what you are. You weigh about 3 kilograms. Bluntly put, you are a biological disaster waiting to happen. And yet, here you are, watching this, which means somewhere behind you, a chain of ancestors going back 300,000 years did the impossible over and over without a single failure. One broken link in that chain, just once, and you simply wouldn't exist. So, let's start with the question nobody actually asks. Why is human birth this hard in the first place? A baby giraffe drops 2 meters, lands, and is trotting within an hour. A newborn chimp clings to its mother's fur almost immediately. Humans? Completely useless for months. Not a flaw, a trade-off. And it has a name. Secondary ultrashiality. Here's the mechanism. Human brains are too large to finish developing inside the womb. So evolution made us give birth early, essentially premature by design. A newborn's brain is only about 25% of its adult size. A chimp is born already at 45%. Years of brain construction that other species complete before birth, we do fully exposed, fully dependent on someone else keeping us breathing. That single fact changes everything about the question. This was never about individual parenting skill. It was about social engineering on a species-wide scale. You've heard, "It takes a village." It's on mugs now. It's a cliche. But in early human history, it wasn't sentiment. It was a precise survival mechanism with a name: cooperative breeding. Most primates leave childcare entirely to the mother. Humans broke that pattern completely. The burden got distributed. Aunts, uncles, older siblings, unrelated neighbors, all of them genuinely responsible for keeping that one child alive. Grandmothers, most of all. There's an entire scientific theory built around this exact fact. The grandmother hypothesis, arguing that human menopause exists specifically so older women stop reproducing and start keeping everyone else's children alive instead. And the data backs it hard. In studied hunter-gatherer populations, a grandmother's presence is one of the single strongest predictors of whether a child survives past age 2. Fathers were in on it too, far more than you'd assume. Researchers studying the Aka people of Central Africa found fathers within arm's reach of their infants roughly 47% of the time. 47%! That beats most fathers in wealthy countries today, armed with every modern convenience imaginable. Now, here's the part that tends to make people a little uncomfortable. Ancient mothers almost never put their babies down. Not occasionally, almost never. Constant physical contact, what we'd now call baby wearing, wasn't a trend. It was the species' default. And there's a reason it worked at a biological level. Skin contact regulates an infant's heart rate, breathing, body temperature. Cross-cultural studies have found babies who are carried constantly cry roughly 50% less than babies who spend real time alone. The crying was never a personality trait. It was a stress alarm, and contact was the only thing that switched it off. Feeding looked nothing like today either. Breastfeeding in traditional societies regularly continued for 2 to 4 years, sometimes longer, happening as often as several times an hour in early infancy. That wasn't just nutrition. It suppressed ovulation, which is exactly why children were naturally spaced 3 to 4 years apart. Biological birth control built directly into the survival math. And sleep. Nobody slept alone. For roughly 99% of our species' existence, infants slept in physical contact with an adult every single night. Not in a crib down the hall, but against a warm, breathing body. Anthropologist James McKenna has spent decades arguing that an adult's breathing during sleep may have literally helped regulate an infant's own breathing during exactly the developmental window when that system is still unreliable. None of this made ancient childhood safe. Best estimates put child mortality somewhere between 30 and 50% before age 5 for most of human history. No germ theory, no antibiotics, none of the tools that have since cut child mortality by over 95%. And still, they mourned hard. Burial sites prove it. Small graves, carefully arranged, sometimes with offerings placed beside them. This was never a species that shrugged off loss. It was a species doing everything it possibly could with what it had. And here's the twist almost nobody tells you. A lot of what they did wasn't primitive. It was load-bearing infrastructure, and we quietly tore it down. The extended network of caregivers, the constant physical contact, the shared exhaustion spread across an entire group instead of two exhausted people. Modern life replaced most of it with isolated nuclear families, often hundreds of miles from any of that backup. Nobody voted for this as a downgrade. It just happened to be the byproduct of cities, economies, and modern convenience. So when you ask how ancient humans kept their kids alive, the answer was never a checklist of clever tricks. It was one rule, repeated across every tribe, every continent, every century. No single adult was ever allowed to be the only thing standing between a child and disaster. That's not a parenting philosophy. That's the actual, literal reason you're alive to hear it.